obviously, we're all on the same page. To have this many people come out and listen to a report on economic development shows that there's a need. You know, our Buckminster Fuller, who was considered at one time maybe the brightest man on earth, said always teach to the need. And his success, of course, came from that he saw what we needed and tried to provide it. Well, most certainly, we need economic development in this area. We've talked about it for, I guess, before I was born. We have to diversify. And unfortunately, we didn't. And there was a period of time where we felt we didn't have to because we were making money hand over fist. There was a 35-year period there where, holy cow, we couldn't get out of our own way. Kids never went to college. They went right from high school to making $35,000, $40,000 a year in the casinos, which, by the way, has come back to bite us because of the type of workforce that we have at this present time. But what I want to instill upon you is that it is not as bleak as it may seem. Because we fell far, it seems like it hurt more when we landed. But Atlantic City still has a $2.5 billion industry. Not bad. We still have the finest entertainers, the finest chefs, restaurants in the world in Atlantic City. And as far as the county is concerned, between educational, medical, aviation, we have a terrific foundation here to build upon. And there were areas that were far worse off than us. They lost, a town would lose a military base. Or a city like Pittsburgh. Did you ever think you'd live to see the day when there's no steel mills in Pittsburgh that ran for over 100 years, 24/7, 365 days a year? But they not only survived, they thrived. Cleveland, the mistake on the lake. Look where they are. They can come back if we have the will to do so, and hopefully we do.
We decided unanimously that the best firm for this was Angelo Economics of Austin, Texas. And we retained Angelo, who's the GEO of that organization, a principal executive officer of that organization. He came in, and over the course of the last 9 months, we've had 3 town meetings, one in Atlantic City, one in Mays Landing, one in Hamilton in the western section of the county. We met with 13 industry groups. We had over 1,000 people respond to online surveys, and we listened to what people had to say. We listened to their ideas. Their ideas were vetted. They were put into this report by Angelo's. He rated them as to their economic feasibility, and he has today the final document, and that is what he's here to present.
I want to thank you for all of you being here today. Your presence is a strong indication for support for economic development. I really appreciate it. I think Atlantic County appreciates it. Everyone should appreciate one another for making sure that you all are here today. I've always believed that economic development is a team sport. The more fans you have, the better off you are. Moreover, as a practitioner in economic development, I've always believed that the role of economic development, or the responsibility, if you will, for economic development does not just rest or is the responsibility of the economic development organization. It is everybody's business. And by you being here today, I hope that you do make it your business to support economic development. We have about a 17-slide presentation. Hopefully is going to capture most of the highlights of the entire report. I would urge you to go online and take a look at the actual report. We're not going to probably cover every single recommendation. I do want to remind you that this process began 8 months ago. We embarked on a journey. And this strategic plan, I believe, is the first strategic plan for Atlantic County. This journey comes to an end today with a culmination of this rollout event of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Our work has envisioned 4 phases, and I will briefly give you a little bit of background before we move into the actual recommendations. Each one of those phases built upon each other, learn from each step of the process, and built basically the economic development strategy. So I ask each one of you, when you look at the report, not to look at the trees or the leaves on every tree, but look at the vision that is set out for your county and the future of economic development for this area. By the way, by now you've surmised that my accent is not from East Texas. My accent is Greek, and it used to be fashionable to say you were from Greece. Not anymore. What I do want to assure you is that none of my economic development training was done in Greece. I have been educated in the US, and my first job out of college was to work for the largest bank in Texas and then to run the economic development program in Austin, Texas, where we built, I think, one of the strongest economic development programs in the nation. So I speak from the heart. I speak as a practitioner, not just as a consultant, because there's a big difference, I think, between a strategy that sounds great but is very difficult to implement. And this is a strategy, I think, that we definitely can implement. I do want to recognize my colleague, Dane Anderson, the project manager for this endeavor. I don't know where she's sitting, but Dane, thank you for all the hard work, the persistence, and the dedication that you have devoted to these projects. Moreover, I do want to also thank the team in Atlantic County that helped guide us through this entire process. Howard, John Lamey, Max, and Linda, thank you so much for all your support and guidance. The most fundamental aspect of developing a strategic plan is the process. And from the get-go, we wanted to be very transparent, we wanted to be very inclusive, and we had taken the task of really interviewing over 300 key stakeholders through one-to-one interviews, as well as focus groups and community forums. Moreover, we embarked on a survey of residents and businesses. Over 1,000 businesses and residents participated in that process. 5 fact-finding trips to come here to conduct interviews, to talk to key stakeholders, to gather more information on the county and its strengths as well as its weaknesses. This has been the most public, intensive process for a strategic plan that Angelo Economics has ever followed. And I believe it is the most public engagement process in Atlantic County's history. I want to thank all of you again, because without your support and guidance, this project would not have come to a successful conclusion. Our research clearly showed the economic pain inflicted on Atlantic City as well as Atlantic County as a result of the significant downturn of the entertainment and hospitality sector. What I'm here to tell you are things that you've already felt and know about your region. The poverty rate has gone up significantly from 14% to 25% in just a span of about 6 years. The unemployment has risen to record highs. The average home value in Atlantic County has declined by $54,000 in the course of the last 6 years. The casino closings have directly laid off 6,700 jobs, indirectly probably another 15,000 or so. And the total casino gaming industry revenues have also declined by over 40%. Moreover, this economic despair has caused significant declines in the taxable base of your county. It declined by $16 billion in the course of the last 6 years, and the city's rateable base also was cut in half. Yet at the same time, during these challenged times, public officials have been asked to provide and continue to provide the services that you're all accustomed to. Unfortunately, the only way that they can do that is through tax hikes. Over the first few months of our research, we discovered a couple of things that concerned us the most. First and foremost, the lack of industry diversification. Angelo Economics has conducted over 650 strategic plans throughout the US and the world. No place else we've discovered a situation where there was only a one-sector economy, and this is exactly what you have. The entertainment and hospitality industry is a mammoth. It just basically been your economy for the last 20 years, and it was great until for as long as it lasted, but you know, all good things come to an end at some point in time, and unfortunately the decline of this industry has caused a lot of economic despair. The second and most important finding for me, and this was addressed actually during our interview, was the lack of a local economic development entity to take charge of economic development. Nowhere else where we've done work, we found that there was not a local economic development entity to take responsibility for the economic prosperity of the region. We've met only 2 communities that do not have a local EDO, very small, much smaller than you are, and we immediately proposed the creation of an economic development organization. Let me say that during the public input process, I saw a lot of finger pointing, a lot of frustration. All the fingers were pointing to the state economic development organization. It is not the state's responsibility, as from where I come from, to provide economic development at the local level. The state's responsibility is to market the state and allow communities, counties to compete for economic development and the leads that are generated from that marketing. I have to say that New Jersey is the most state-centric economic development place that I've ever encountered. I cannot decipher any local economic development organizations, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2. Even Rhode Island has more economic development organizations at the local level than you do. So it is important to note that economic development is local. It has always been around the country, and this is an area where we are starting from ground zero. We have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility for making it local and being accountable basically for the economic prosperity of this region. There is hope, and I think I'm encouraged to say that you have a great foundation of assets to leverage and build upon to bring a better economy and a better future for the residents and citizens of this county. Step by step, in small steps, this economy can be rebuilt. I wouldn't be here telling you that if I didn't strongly believe that this could happen here. You have a rich history of economic success. You have a rich history of entrepreneurship. As Chris Grosser once said, opportunities don't happen, you create them. And economic development is all about looking at those opportunities, working on those opportunities, and making them happen. As I said to the county officials in the last few meetings, one of the things that I'm very confident that will happen in the future, as you create an economic development organization, as you see the type of economic development activity that you will be processing in your community, you will wish that you had done it 20 years ago. Because you will have never known the opportunities that you've missed until you worked them. And if you don't really create an economic development organization, you will never know what the opportunities were for your county. We gave you a targeted industry list, and every presenter is entitled, I guess, to one slide that nobody can read. This is the one for me in this presentation. Given your dependency in the entertainment sector, it was really very difficult to discern what would be the targets for industry diversification in your county. So we found, however, several opportunities, and here they're presented. I think aerospace and avionics is a sector in which that there can be success. We're focusing that success on aircraft maintenance. You have a significant asset there that can provide significant jobs. Moreover, we ascertained by talking to the airport officials that several times in the past, MRO facilities have looked at your region, but no one ever knew about it. No one were ever given the opportunity to work on those opportunities. In fact, the most recent one was just very recently with Spirit Airlines announcing an MRO in Detroit and not locally, because nobody knew of this interest. No one had the opportunity to compete and win and fight for the economic development interests of your county. We believe that UAV design and evaluation and repair is also an appropriate sector. You are in one of the 6 regions around the country that has the airspace, unlimited airspace for that. In a joint venture with Virginia, I believe we can have a lot of that activity be taking place. Life sciences. Well, you don't really have a life sciences sector. You do have a strong health care sector. But we believe with the advent of a medical school, there could be opportunities in kinesiology, geriatrics, marine biology, as well as sports medicine. And this is an area I think that we have focused this strategic plan. On tourism, you have millions of people coming through Atlantic City, but they don't see the whole story. There's substantial ecotourism, aquatourism, and agri-tourism potential here. There's lack of tour packages. When I arrive at the airport in Philadelphia, I don't see an information booth that will guide me to the types of activities that I can be engaged, or my family to be engaged and see. There is no billboards driving for 1 hour to point me to where I'm going. The only signs of anything that looks like an economic development opportunity is the signs 2 or 3 miles outside of your city about Atlantic City and the casino. And by that time I know already what I'm seeing because I see the skyline. So there's no visibility, there's not a whole lot of infrastructure, I think, in place to have accommodated a wholesome tourist experience and product in your county. Specialty manufacturing along the lines of specialty foods, food and beverage processing, aircraft parts and design, UAV manufacturing and parts of the avionic industry. In fact, even prototype design are also sectors in which we believe there is a strong possibility. Business services, where a lot of entrepreneurship exists, accounting, data processing, network security, programming, and also the gamers industry. We want to be sure that Atlantic County is not just one of the gaming centers of the world, but is a gamers center of the world. There's a huge potential to attract gamers from around the world, and we have specific suggestions, I think, on how to do that. And esports particularly is an area of focus for us in that endeavor. Simply speaking, our mission in developing this strategic plan was guided by certain principles. First, we saw as the mission of this project and our effort was to sustain and diversify the economy in order to provide a higher quality of life for all of the county's residents. Our vision was to increase the tax base of Atlantic County by enhancing the business climate and creating higher paying jobs. These are basically the overarching principles that we were guided upon. We envisioned this strategy in fitting 4 pockets of activity. Establish a regional economic development organization, drive industry diversification, improve the economic development product, and rethink the destination factor for Atlantic County. So let me just briefly begin one by one to share with you the highlights, because there are numerous other action plans and strategies here that are not mentioned, the highlights of this strategic plan. So let us start with the establishing a regional economic development entity. We believe that this entity ought to be a public-private partnership. That's the best way to really bring the most successful type of economic development model into your county. That means the private sector does not get a free ride on public money. That means that everyone takes responsibility. Think of it. If you do not invest in your community, why should you ever have a level of expectation that others will invest in your own community? So I'm asking each one of you to support financially with all your might this effort, because it's going to need it. Austin, Texas raises $26 million to do economic development. You don't even have an economic development organization. We're starting way behind from every other community that we have done this type of work, and what I know to be true in this country. There are over 7,000 economic development organizations in the US competing for just very few projects, something I will also cover later on. This public-private partnership needs to be led by the private sector. The public sector is there to lend support. Ideally, this partnership shares responsibility for funding this organization 50-50. If you can take it to be entirely private, that will be even better. Over the years, the Austin Chamber of Commerce did become a private economic development organization. The $26 million I spoke about all comes from private money. We have to look at all parts of the county, all 23 cities, and in economic development you are as strong as your weakest link. So we want to encourage the formation of a council of planning departments to lend support and share knowledge of planning. There is quite a different view of planning and permitting in 23 cities, and somehow all of that needs to come together. Everyone needs to be adopting some broad guidelines. Every city can be different, but we need to bring all of that together. An economic development organization that should be run like a corporation should also have an annual report and its newsletter communicating to the internal audiences as well as the external audiences. Moreover, we propose that this economic development entity, which we found an appropriate name for it, the Atlantic County Economic Development Corporation, should become a marketing machine. Because economic development, after all, is not about brick and mortar, it's about building relationships. It's about molding perceptions. Perception is reality in our industry. And after all, 7,000 economic development organizations spend $25 billion a year so that they can mold the perception of those that they want to attract to their community and attract them successfully. Goal number 2, drive industry diversification, attract new industries, embrace a robust retention and expansion program, foster strong entrepreneurial growth and ecosystem. Let me be blunt with you on this. 98% of all jobs in any city, anywhere in the country, are created from existing businesses. So you can only embark on attracting new industries only if you have had a significant and robust effort in knowing who your clients are, and your clients are your existing businesses. I emphasize that because we have to stop the bleeding. During the surveying process, we discovered that a lot of your citizens and a lot of your businesses expressed an interest of frustration, and 38% of the residents suggested that they will be leaving the county, and a considerable number of businesses also suggested that they could also be leaving the county. So we need to stop the bleeding. We want to have a program that is relevant to their needs. We need to be talking to them on a daily basis. Foster entrepreneurship. You have a rich history of entrepreneurship, and every economic development begins with a strong entrepreneurial environment, which you've had. You lost it along the way because you became too comfortable on one single industry here to support the county's economy. This reminds me of a story of IBM. IBM was born in Binghamton, New York. I have done the economic development strategy for Binghamton, New York. That first building there, Think, is still there. It's a museum. IBM employed 18,000 people in that community. The community became too comfortable with IBM funding the arts, the culture, golf courses, everything. In fact, so comfortable that they expected IBM to be taking care of things forever. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not our companies that take care of communities anymore. It's communities that take care of companies. No one could understand why IBM left Binghamton, New York. They only have a couple hundred people there. They still keep them employed because it's a Superfund site, and if they totally left, they will have to clean it up. Simply put, IBM left Binghamton because the community did not grow with IBM's needs. Even if you had, by design, outlawed any supplier of being there, any other businesses to grow with IBM, you could not have done it better. There is not a single supplier in the history of IBM in Binghamton that grew with the needs of a multinational company. That has to tell you something. Basically, the community expected everything from the IBM. The community did nothing for IBM. So I believe you have several great opportunities. Maintenance and repair operators is such a low-hanging fruit. You've had a history, as I've outlined earlier, of opportunities in that sector. There are opportunities to be still pursued. The Stockton Aviation Research and Tech Park. It's a great asset. I urge all of you to consider a joint venture between a public-private partnership to build a spec building. I know that there is demand for that spec building. I know that there is a lot of interest in the avionics sector here, particularly what the FAA Center is doing here. UAV manufacturing is also a possibility here. But one of the things that struck me is many of you during the stakeholder input process suggested that you have a strategic location. Well, let me say that I do not see the strategic location of Atlantic County. You're at the end of a cul-de-sac. And anybody to the north or south can cut you out of business, just as it has happened in the casino industry. This is not a strategic location. What I see as a strategic location is the ocean in front of you that has served as a barrier and not as an opportunity to connect you to the rest of the world. So I do believe you have the infrastructure, you have the capability to build a World Trade Center. And by that I mean a global manufacturers and buyers marketplace. There are several examples of that around the country. We gave you some of the best practices to consider. And lately we've also seen an opportunity to really become a global center for climate change and research, and we hope that you take on that opportunity. The community has to go for every opportunity that it comes to it, viciously, with a lot of fervor, with a lot of enthusiasm and support. We need to go after every single prospect. We need to do it professionally. We need to do it in a way that all of you will be very proud of the economic development program. The confidence of Atlantic County and its residents and citizens will definitely improve by doing so. Let's think the goal 4, rethink the destination factor. We believe that Atlantic City can become the game capital of the world. Software developers, esports. One of the biggest industries in the world today is people following many gamers and actual competitions in real time. There's no reason why, just as in Vegas we have a lot of the gaming companies headquartered there, why we have not been able to attract that same type of activity here. A major indoor theme park, again establishing the county and Atlantic City as a major esports center. Become the East Coast location of extreme sports, why not? Economic development is all about dreaming, and if you can dream of something, you can truly reach and make those dreams come true. Promote tourism, the wetlands, the pinelands, not just talk about those assets as liabilities, but as strengths, because I think there is a strong possibility for growth in those areas. Lastly, we have given you an implementation matrix. It maps out the strategies on all the action plans. It assigns priorities. It establishes a timeline. It assigns partners and areas of responsibility. This program is probably a 4 to 5 year implementation program. It will require partners, whether it's the chamber, whether it's the utilities, whether it's all 23 communities. Economic development is all about creating partnerships. This plan provides matrix for measuring your progress. It incorporates flexibility and adjustments. It's not the Bible. It's a guidebook. It's flexible. In 8 months, we've solicited your input. A lot of your input, I think, is synthesized into strategies. But one never knows. Tomorrow, some of you may come up with better ideas. This plan is dynamic. It does not exclude anyone, nor it suggests that there's only one way of doing economic development. And moreover, periodic reviews of this strategy are also very important. As David Osborne said, what gets measured gets done. Finally, let me say that economic development is a team sport, as I said earlier. There are 19,000 cities plus in the US, 7,000 economic development organizations. Guess what? They're all chasing about 2,500 existing company expansions and about 2,500 new companies. The odds of many communities are that they attract one prospective employer every 7 years, because there are communities like Atlanta and Seattle and Austin and Boulder, Colorado, and others that attract more than their fair share. So this is a very competitive sport. It's not for the lighthearted. It's serious business, but it is all about investing in your future. Companies go where they are being wooed. How can Atlantic County compete if they're not in the race? Let me bring this meeting to closing to say that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of schizophrenia. Nothing will change unless we truly, truly change economic development in this region. My friends, I call on you to join on this journey to rebuild this economy. I believe it can be done. Make no mistake that this road will be long and difficult to traverse. Economic development is not a sprint, it's a marathon. The pertinent questions to ask today to all of you, if not now, when? If not you as citizens of this county, who will take responsibility for economic development? As William Bryan said, destiny is not a matter of choice. It is a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved and fought for. I strongly believe that the best of economic development is yet to come for Atlantic County and this region. I ask for your support. I ask to share the vision of this strategy with the entire county, for you to all become ambassadors of this effort towards the common goal of rebuilding this economy. My last comment, and this is very apropos, one of my favorite quotes of all time, I will paraphrase it. This is a day of celebration. This is a day that we should all be asking the most pertinent question of all. Ask not what economic development can do for you, because over the years, I'm sure you have benefited from a very strong economy that you once had. But the question to ask is, ask what each one of you can do for economic development. Join me in this effort, join the county. I should not be the one believing in this effort. You need to believe in it, you need to take part. This strategic plan needs to be implemented as soon as possible, and only then there is hope, I think, for economic recovery. Thank you so much.